can't believe you corporate types are still at it. Just stop calling each other rock stars.
And using Workday to put finance and HR on one platform? Tim, you are a rock star.
Using responsible AI doesn't make you a rock star.
Kinda does.
You are not rock stars. Okay, most of you are not rock stars.
Ooh, data-driven insights and large language models. Oh, that's so rock and roll.
It is, right?
He gets it, yeah.
Please welcome back Fortune's Jeremy Kahn.
All right, hello and welcome back to Brainstorm AI, day 2. Wasn't yesterday's program great? Yeah, let's get the energy in the room, that's great. And I hope everyone had as much fun at dinner last night as I did, and I hope you all enjoyed this morning's roundtables. I'm loving the ideas and insights I'm hearing from everyone here. Remember, these conferences are called Brainstorm for a reason. It's as much about exchanging ideas and about all of you here in the audience as it is about what happens out here on stage. So let's keep the creativity and the conversation flowing. We have quite a lineup for you today, and I hope you're all as excited about it as I am. Before we start, an important reminder about our conversations. What is said on stage or during the breakout sessions is on the record, unless otherwise noted. What is said over a break is private and off the record, unless otherwise agreed upon. Okay, now while I've got your attention, I'd like to reiterate my invitation to all of you to a very special talk I'm giving on my book, Mastering AI, on Thursday at Book Passage in the Ferry Building at 5:30 p.m. I'll be speaking with tech journalist Brad Stone and signing books afterwards. I hope to see you all there. In addition, I want to remind you that if you're interested in AI and tech, and why would, you're here, so I assume you all are, then you should definitely, if you aren't already, become a subscriber to Fortune's Eye on AI, data sheet, and term sheet newsletters. They're all fantastic. They're all free to subscribe to. Just go to fortune.com/newsletters. Finally, please share the brilliant things you hear with the wider world on social media. Our hashtag across platforms is #BrainstormAI. That's all one word. Okay, next up, we will take a deeper look into the art of scaling AI within your organizations. How are executives moving past experiments to actually see returns on their investments? Please welcome to the stage Lan Guan, Chief AI Officer and Head of the Center for Advanced AI at Accenture, and Mahesh Saptharishi, Executive Vice President and Chief Technology Officer at Motorola Solutions.
Thank you.
Have a seat. Mahesh, have a seat. Thanks so much for joining me.
Thank you for having me.
I think a lot of, there's been a lot of talk that 2023 is sort of this year of experimentation. A lot of people doing pilot projects. As we move into 2024, there are a lot of businesses that are thinking about, okay, now I want to take things out of pilot. I really want to deploy things at scale. I really want to see how I'm going to get ROI out of AI. And I want to go to both of you. How do you look at and how do you advise companies to pick a pilot project to scale up? How do you come up with some metrics for success and some metrics around ROI? We'll go to you first, Lon. How are you advising Accenture's clients on this?
Yeah, sure. I think that's a very common question. I think first of all, we always advise the client on the definition of the scale. What does the scale mean, right? Yes, the scale means you're taking a lot of your POC experimentation into production, but also we remind client that there are other imperatives that they need to be investing in, things like, okay, setting up the very, strong value management process to track the value, and also focusing on some of the talent challenges. So it's not one size fits all. It's not one single answer, but starting from, taking what you have built into production, but then also focusing on all the surrounding things that you will require to scale Gen AI.
And should the metrics all be quantitative ones, or should you use some qualitative metrics too?
Yeah, no, I don't think so. Right? I think quantitative is where everybody's head is going to, right, initially. And I think that's very important. In fact, one of the solutions that we have scaled within Accenture for our marketing team, right, we are tracking about 20 to 30% of the reduction in the existing workflow steps. But then at the same time, we're tracking a lot of the qualitative metrics, things like employee satisfaction, things about culture changes. So I would say these two are both very, very important.
Great. I want to go to you, Mahesh. How do you look at this within Motorola Solutions? How do you decide which products you're going to scale up?
Yeah, so to begin with, Motorola Solutions is very focused on public safety and enterprise security. Our mission is solving for safer communities. When we think about a mission-oriented business, for us, we really focus on two metrics, top-level metrics. For public safety, if you save 60 seconds from a 911 response, you save 10,000 lives a year. In enterprise security, after about 20 minutes of watching video, your level of attention, the ability to detect something that is important, drops to about 20%, and it drops exponentially below that as time passes. So attention management is the key to success when it comes to enterprise security. When we apply AI, it's about how many seconds can we materially save, and how much attention can be preserved for our operators in the enterprise security space. And that's kind of how we think about metrics in this context. Obviously, there's many other factors that play into it, but ultimately, those are the two things from a mission standpoint we have to go fulfill, and that's when we decide we need to move further with AI.
Great. Another thing people are grappling with, particularly as they try to deploy at scale, is reliability and trustworthiness. Particularly, generative AI. A lot of people are concerned about hallucinations. A lot of people are worried about using what is ultimately a probabilistic technology in a business context. How have you sought to kind of overcome those challenges with this technology? Maybe we'll go to Mahesh first and then to Lon.
Sure. So when we think about AI in the context of public safety and enterprise security, we think about it as mission-critical AI, right? And for us, it's the ABCDs of mission-critical AI. It's availability, its benefit, its capability, and its design. Those are the four factors, alphabetically organized, not by priority. But starts with benefit. We need to have that overwhelming benefit consistent with the two metrics I mentioned before. With that overwhelming benefit, we need to deliver the user experience that is right. And that user experience is one where we can calibrate how the human plus the AI is better than each one by itself. And everything that we focus on is workflows that are manually executed that now can benefit from AI and automation. So there's a baseline of performance, and that baseline of performance needs to allow us to say, hey, human plus AI does better, provably. And that's the capability part, mapping the capability correctly to that. And ultimately, in public safety, we could have the internet go down. There could be a hurricane, which means communication is difficult. Things that may run in the cloud may not be available to us anymore. So availability and making sure that performance is consistent in that time of need. And if performance has to degrade, it does so gracefully. That becomes the availability element of it. Those three things, the ABCDs of mission-critical AI, that's the fundamentals of trustworthy AI for us.
Right. Lon, and how do you look at this at Accenture and when you're talking to your clients? And while Lon's answering, I'm going to come to the audience for questions in a minute, so please think of your questions.
Yeah, sure. So a very important question. And how we bring trustworthy applications to client, I will highlight three things. One is the accuracy. I think again, performance accuracy of Gen AI, especially when you're considering in the scale stage, is so important, right? So there's no such a thing that you can just go talk to an open, off-shelf AI, and in enterprise setting, and it will give you the accurate response, right? There's a lot of performance tuning, a lot of techniques that our Center for Advanced AI team is bringing to the market, so that we can tune these off-shelf models right, to actually help solve a lot of what I call the enterprise messiness, right, within each organization. So accuracy is key. I would say the second one is the adoption, right? So when we say, okay, this thing is trustworthy, you have to be very audience-centric, right? So who are the users, right? How do we provide this kind of capabilities to users so that they can have the hands-on experience is super important. I would say the third one is ensure the user feedback is actually being taken into consideration. So, leveraging techniques such as reinforcement learning with human feedback, have the users actually be part of this communication flows so that their feedback, their interaction with the AI in the back scene is being, comprehended, digested, and leveraged by our research scientists to make this application more trustworthy. I think these are the three reminders that I want to give to everyone.
Right. And I know you've done some things with coupling different models together, and you also have there's a model switchboard product that, if you're trying to figure out which model you should route to for which use case, that helps people do that, is that?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, model-based switchboard gives you the flexibility and agility, which I think is part of the key adoption factors, right, for trust.
Interesting. And I know, Mahesh, at Motorola Solutions, you've done some interesting things with sort of marrying predictive AI with generative AI. So, you may have predictive AI that works on computer vision, identifies what's being seen in a video feed, but then can alert the user in natural language. Is that how that works?
Yeah, so let me give you an example, this is a combination of a few. A person comes into a large city, the person's in that large city with a child with special needs, let's say. Suddenly the person looks around, gets distracted a little bit, the child's nowhere to be seen. Calls 911, but it turns out that that person only speaks Portuguese, doesn't speak English. First step within the 911 system, we have the capacity to translate in real time between Portuguese and English to Portuguese. So now, even though there's a language disconnect there, there's a conversation that is possible. Now, during that conversation, the person describes how that child was clothed. And as soon as that description of how that child was clothed is understood by the system via generative AI mechanism, that description is then pushed to every single camera in that locality, where now every camera is automatically looking, not through generative means, but through discriminative means, differential means, to say, hey, do I see any person wearing that set of clothing fitting that description? When it sees somebody fitting that description, that information is then automatically distributed to law enforcement or other first responders who may have a phone with an app, they may have radios with a screen, and they see that description. Now, if this child is with special needs, the other additional context, the generative AI context that needs to be applied is when that person approaches the child, maybe there's some special care that needs to be taken in that process. So that context, but with the ability to have the sensory infrastructure, that is where there's the combination of generative AI plus traditional.
I think that's a fascinating use case. I'm just going to interrupt you there because I want to go to questions from the audience. Who has questions for Lon and Mahesh? Please raise your hand. I'll come to you. I've got more questions for them if everyone's feeling a bit sleepy this morning and doesn't want to ask questions. But who's got a question? I'm not seeing any questions yet, so I'm going to keep going. One of the big concerns at scale with this technology is cost. People are very concerned that costs will get out of hand and that you're not going to see ROI because it's simply too expensive to run these models at scale. Lon, how are you seeing clients deal with that issue of cost?
Yeah, no, that's a very common question, and I would say super important to understand the full architecture of what you are standing up, so that you understand, right? You can actually break it down into the different cost components, right? Are you talking about the training cost, right? Are you talking about data acquisition costs? Are you talking about the inferencing costs, right? A lot of times, I think this conversation is kind of mixed together, right? Which make it difficult to actually pinpoint where the cost is coming from. So one of my retail clients, they face the exact same problem. And when we actually went through this, what I call the cost diagnostic exercise that we did, we found out the main pain point is actually with the inferencing. So, and simply because a lot of the data treatments that they have done behind the scene and how they are actually doing the prompting, with the existing model is not being performed, right? right? It's not being optimized. So this means they are not taking into consideration of the long context window that is made available to them now. So they're making a lot of the round trips, unnecessary of the round trips of the token consumption. So just to give you one example, almost like we're talking to a doctor and describe the symptom, and then in this case, doctor will prescribe, right, very specific things along the entire, stages of the architecture. I think that is the approach. I really love the example that Mahesh was talking about. I think that really brings to life the complexity of how we are taking this kind of a Gen AI into enterprise, because it's, like I said, it's not just you prompting a off-shelf model, you get what you need. There's a lot of refinement, lots of optimization that needs to happen.
Interesting. And Mahesh, I mean, the solution you talked about sounds great. You can, the finding of a child, it's hard to put a value on that necessarily. But for the person who's buying your cameras or buying your solution, they do have to put a number on that. How do you price that? And is it twice as expensive, 3 times as expensive as a sort of dumb camera system would be?
Yeah, and I think it's that commercial, like saving a life is priceless.
Yeah.
Go through this, right? But all that said, philosophically, we first focus on what is the most difficult problem we need to solve. And then secondly, we take an Occam's razor approach to it. What is the simplest solution to the problem? There's a tendency, given the power and capability of generative AI, to take the giant hammer and apply it to everything that looks like a nail. And sometimes you need the expertise in-house to understand how do you calibrate the right complexity of solution that applies to that problem. By the way, not just from a cost standpoint, because the simpler the solution, it's easier for you to actually evaluate it, test it, make sure that it doesn't do something that was unintentional and bad, potentially. When we think about it in that context, we can actually then say, hey, how do we now break up the problem into the right chunks? What can run in more expensive infrastructure? What can run in something that perhaps doesn't need that expensive an infrastructure? Where is it okay for us to have some latency in the system, and that translates to maybe some cost advantage? Where does it have to be in real time? That distributed systems thinking with AI then becomes the other important factor here that we take into consideration. In that example I gave you, everything that the cameras do is built into the cost of the camera. And those cameras are no more expensive than perhaps dumb cameras that you would.
That's what I was going to ask. So
yeah.
They're building the price of the camera. The camera's not outrageously more expensive than a normal dumb camera would be.
That's exactly right. And we selectively apply the translation capability. We selectively apply the context extraction capability, where that is more on demand versus operating on a continuous stream of data, so we can calibrate the cost profile appropriately.
Got it. Lon, I want to ask about talent and people, because that's part of this too. Is that one of the impediments here, and how much do people need to think about, okay, I'm going to scale this out to my whole organization, but what kind of training do you need around your workforce to have success with that? And is that where people are maybe falling down also? I think some of these cases where you're not seeing ROI, it's partially because you haven't trained the workforce to actually use the technology.
Absolutely, a huge impediment, right? We have seen cases all over the place that client is not ready to embrace Gen AI at scale simply because they don't have the right people. They don't have the right skill set, right? It's like the hot potato, right? How do you embrace that if you don't have the right skill set? But I also want to call out, it's not just the technical skills. Yes, that is super important. In fact, in Accenture's case, we have transformed all of our AI practitioners to be, future-ready roles, right? Things like, AI computational scientists. Things like, okay, you need to be the Gen AI architects. So that's important to actually beef up the technical competency, right? So that you can master, harness the power of this Gen AI, but it's equally important to train the business users so that this whole adoption concept, the acceptance, the diffusion of the AI, right, throughout the organization, we're relying on those users to play their role. So I just want to remind everyone, it's kind of a double-edged sword, technical competency, and also on the business side, they need to be able to embrace, right, Gen AI on a daily basis.
That's great. That's a good note to end on. I'm afraid we're out of time, but thank you so much for being with us. That was really fascinating. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you again, Lon and Mahesh. That was fantastic. But stick around. Don't miss this really exciting announcement coming right up.
The rate of change is at an all-time high, and your people will need new skills to embrace it. Accenture's LearnVantage is here to help. We work to understand your organization's strategy and assess the skills your people have today and need for tomorrow. We offer industry-recognized courses to deliver personalized learning with certifications and measurable outcomes. Together, we build the skills your people want and your organization needs to grow faster.
All right. It's me again. I have a very exciting announcement to make here as Accenture's Chief AI Officer. Today is our day to announce together with Stanford Human-Centered AI organization this very exciting program. So Gen AI Scholar online program. So this is the, like I said, we just talked about some of the talent challenges, right, on Jeremy's fireside chat. And that's one of the top challenges that many organizations face. And Accenture wanted to play a very strategic role, very big role in this case. So in our case, we have trained a lot of our people internally, but we felt like that's not enough. We need to go to the best, right? So that's why about 2 years ago, we formed this Accenture partnership with the Stanford Human-Centered AI. And the first thing that we did together with HI is actually set up this foundation model, scholar program. So Accenture, Stanford Foundation Model Scholar program for us to take our top leaders to Stanford of Gen AI technology. But that's not enough. Not everybody can go to Stanford, right? So that's why we created this online program that is available to everyone, every organization. And for you to access this program, please go to our LearnVantage program, the platform, and actually look up the Gen AI Scholar, and you will find all the information that you can sign up for this program. Panos, as my partner for this,
yes.
You want to say a couple things here?
Thank you, Lan, and hi, everyone. We are particularly excited launching this program with Accenture today. It was a byproduct of a lot of hard work and a lot of love and passion for both organizations. So as most of you might know, we are the Stanford Institute for Human-Centered AI, which means that we have a lot of ideas and we want to believe some sort of a playbook of how organizations should be designing, building, and deploying AI responsibly at scale. And we found over the course of the years that a lot of the alpha comes from the osmosis for this ongoing dialogue between the magic that's happening on the foundational research side and then the action on the applied side and the applied intelligence side. So in many ways, on the industry program at Stanford, what we do is building bridges between those two worlds. So our ambition is with this program, we'll build bigger bridges with Stanford and the rest of the world and allow access to the use cases and theoretical background in a more comprehensive and inclusive way. So with that being said, thanks again to Lan and Accenture for leading this effort.
Yes,
and we will welcome
enjoy
everyone.
learning.
Enjoy learning.
Okay.
Lan. Yeah, the other.
That's fantastic, folks. Thank you. So last night when I was on this stage talking with Colin Kaepernick about his company Lumi, he expressed the importance of paying and supporting content creators, which, of course, doing what I do, I fully believe in and support. One industry that continues